Okay, so everybody, Shavua Tov. I hope everybody is going to have an amazing week. I'm just going to say a quick Lilui Nishmat and Refuah Shlema. Tonight's class is sponsored by Mrs. Bracha Wachspress for the Refuah Shlema of Adina Bat Goldi and Teshuvah Shlema of her sons Shmuel Tzvi ben Bracha and Benjamin Yosef ben Bracha with love and to feel Hashem's love in his heart. And also that Benjamin Yosef ben Bracha should meet his soulmate. Amen. That was very beautiful. You know, we all need so much. We're all looking for so much, and we need so much. And on the one hand, it's very, very difficult, and it's frustrating. And on the other hand, if you realize that each one of these things is pushing you to speak to Hashem and to give it up to Him, so then it can even become sweet. I know this is the end of the month of Tevet, and we said that the chush of this month is bitul, self-nullification. Most people probably have felt that this month has been maybe even harder than others, or at least more anger-provoking. And the reason is not because something is wrong, or more wrong than it usually is. It's because there is a capacity for every single one of us to achieve devekut with Hashem, even amidst anger-provoking events in our life, or frustrating provoking events in our life. Now, we were asked a couple weeks ago, how is it that you actually achieve bitul? What do you actually do in the moment that you can, so to speak, nullify your anxiety, nullify your fears, nullify your anger, nullify your negative emotions, and tap into something which is peaceful and good? And we hinted to it. But I had an event this past weekend that made me think more about it, and hopefully will be a good launching pad for everybody to be able to understand what do you actually do lamaisa in the moment. This past Shabbat, the Friday leading up to it, I barely ate anything. So by the time Shabbat came in, I was starving. I don't know if you guys know, you ever hear of this word hangry? Where you're so hungry that you leave like even the state of like I need to eat something, and you like just enter into a state of frustration you don't usually feel. And then I didn't sleep well the night before, so I was really tired. And now Shabbat's coming in, and I come back from shul, and we're sitting around the table, thank God, with my kids and my wife. And I'm trying to get them in the mood and to get them excited like I usually did, but I felt a little bit off. And then after we made Kiddush, my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, Baruch Hashem, she knocked the wine over everywhere. And something else happened as well, I forget. So between like all of these events converging, there was a lot of noise inside of myself. Now, let's say a few years ago, I probably would have had like a meltdown. Okay. Now, let's say a year ago, or a few years, or a couple of years ago, I would have known the concept of Amunah, and I would have known that in truth this is from Hashem, but I still would have acted on that feeling inside. Now, let's say a year later, doing Hipodadut, learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings, now I actually feel in my heart to some extent that this is from Hashem. And so I'm not only not acting on it, I even feel less intensity of anger or less intensity of frustration. So thank God, Baruch Hashem, I felt that I did very good in that moment. And I didn't sweat it at all. I just kept going. And I had them, and I acted the same way I would normally act. I got the kids excited. I got my wife excited about Shabbat. We had a beautiful meal. But I still had that thing going on inside of me from before. So it was like hours and hours and hours of that. And usually what I do on Friday night is I stay up late at night and I learn. Usually that's when I learn my most, actually, is Friday night on Shabbat. But because of how I felt, so I didn't feel like learning. Now, I could have pushed myself to learn and learned anyway, but then I felt like it would have been something which Rabbi Nachman calls a Yetzer Hara clothed in a mitzvah. Because I would have stayed up thinking about everything that took place during the whole day, during that moment, all those emotions leading up to that. And instead, what I did was I went to sleep very early, okay? And I got up early, and I started learning at like 1 a.m. throughout the morning, okay? Now, for me to be able to get myself to sleep like that on the one night that I'm actually by myself, able to learn in peace, have no phone on, nothing going on, the one time the whole week that I look forward to, and now I'm going to lose that because of how I feel, right? So like anybody, like for instance, let's say you're angry, or let's say you're frustrated. So some people cope with that by yelling. Some people cope with that by eating. Some people cope with that by watching TV. Some people cope with that by I don't know, chewing their nails. Everybody has their own way of dealing with their stuff. I went and I acted on a piece of eitzah that Rabbi Nachman gives, and that is called closing your eyes. Bitul, close your eyes. Okay? I want to teach you a piece of Likutei Moharan that I feel will show you how to deal with these situations when they take place. This is one of the most amazing pieces of Likutei Moharan, and it's in one of the greatest lessons of Likutei Moharan. Whenever I read the beginning of this lesson, I always start to tear up because of how much I'm affected by this lesson, how meaningful it is to me. It's the 65th lesson in the Likutei Moharan, and it's called The Master of the Field. I'm not going to start from the beginning of the lesson. I'm just going to read a section of it. But I want you to see what Rabbi Nachman means when he says bitul. Because Baruch Hashem, we still have a few more days left until the next month. And that means we're probably going to have a few more opportunities for bitul. And you can either lose yourself completely and experience tremendous despair or anger or confusion, or you can close your eyes. I want to show you what Rabbi Nachman says right now. Vada, you should know. And by the way, I said this before, da means Russian, and Russian means yes. Okay. So in Hebrew, it means you should know. Now, there is a tradition that whenever Rabbi Nachman says in the Likutei Moharan, da, vada, you should know, it means that he achieved a hasaga, he achieved a perception of godly understanding, which comes from the world, the olam of Atzilut. In Kabbalah, it explains that there is different levels of worlds. The highest world usually is referred to as olam Atzilut. Usually, you would only get there when you're not physically alive anymore. However, certain tzaddikim were so great that they could actually, what they call, you know how we call it, what's it called? Space traveling, space travel, what do they call it? Time traveling? Yeah. So the Baal Shem Tov was known for doing something which is called soul ascents. You know how, like, for instance, some of you will be like, oh, I got to go to the gym now. So the Baal Shem Tov would be like, okay, I got to go to another world now. And he would sit down and he would literally ascend through the different spiritual worlds. Actually, he would see what was going on there. You know, he'd pick up a nice kosher sandwich over here, and then he'd go up to them. I'm just kidding. But he would go for each world to each world, and he would see other tzaddikim there as well. The other ones who were able to do this. Is a very funny story about the Baal Shem Tov and the Or HaChaim, how they used to do this thing together. But obviously, the Baal Shem Tov was in Ukraine, and Or HaChaim was in Israel. And they never met in physical life. But apparently, they met many times while they were doing their soul ascents. Okay? Rabbi Nachman used to do this as well. And this is probably coming in the midst of his Hippodadu. And whenever he says in the Torah, Vada, you should know, it means that this piece that he's about to teach you, he got when he was in the highest world. So that means it's very powerful. That means it's very transformative. It means it's not even from this world. Okay. So he says, Vada, you should know. So bechina hainu, meaning bechinat echad, the concept of oneness that we say every day, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We have a mitzvah from the Torah, men and women, that we should say the Shema every morning and every night. Okay? We know that it's the first thing that Jewish children learn. We know it's the last thing they say before they pass away. We know that when a person is in a difficulty or a trial or a tribulation, Chazal say Shema. So Shema is really the ikar of what it means to be Jewish. It's the ikar of Jewish faith. And what is the ikar of Jewish faith? Echad. That everything is one. So bechinat tachlit. This is the concept of the purpose of life. So this is a very important thing he's already saying. That the echad comes with the purpose and the final point of life. Meaning that right now, it doesn't look echad. It doesn't feel echad. It doesn't feel, you don't experience the world as one. You experience as many, as separate, as disconnected, as confusing, as overwhelming. Why? Because we see the world and the events in our life as disconnected. When will you see that everything is one? Like Chazal teach, by Yomahu, Shem Echad u'Shemo Echad, that we say in Aleinu 3 times a day, that on that day, and Chazal say when Mashiach comes, that Hashem will be one and his name will be one. Meaning, right now, even though Hashem is one, so to speak, the revelation of his oneness is not here. Or at least you don't feel it. But when Mashiach comes, then how Hashem really is, meaning his oneness, is the same way it's going to be in your mind. That you will feel he's one like he is one. Not just that you'll have to believe that he's one like we do now, even though we don't see that he's one. You will actually be able to experience that everything from the beginning until the end of your life, from the beginning until the end of existence, is one good. One and good. Bayomahu, on that day. Why on that day? Rabbi Nachman says, Hainu hatachlit, because it's the final destination. The tachlit of your life. V'hu bechinat klo tov. And that tachlit, that place at the end of existence, when B'ezrat Hashem Mashiach should come, b'mirav yameinu, and that we see that everything is one, that is the whole purpose of creation, that Hashem should create a world, that he should create a human being, a life, in which for a time period it appears in which everything is disconnected, in which everything is disparate, in which everything is separate and confusing and even scary. And ultimately, that the whole entire tachlit of life is that all of these completely seemingly separate events and people and cultures and societies will all be shown at the very end to be one. And in that place, everything is kulo tov. Ki echad hu kulo tov. Because oneness is only good. Completely good. There is no such thing as Hashem's echad, and it's not completely good. So when we get there, what are we going to experience? Not just that everything was one, but that everything was completely good. Not good like I had a candy bar and it tasted good. Not good like I went to the gym and I had a good workout. Good like there is nothing else besides the good. No anxiety, no anger, no sadness, no depression, no fears, no confusion, just good. Where do we see that echad represents only good? Because the gematria of echad, says Rabbi Nachman, is ahava, is love. Meaning, what are we saying? Hashem Elokeinu, listen, Israel, meaning you're reminding yourself, Hashem is your God, not whatever is taking place in your life. That's not controlling you. You're not controlling you, Hashem is. And Hashem Echad. It's all one. Not just is it all one, what is the motivation for everything that takes place in your life? Hashem's love. That's it. That Hashem loves you. Why is this happening? Rabbi Nachman says you can only know one thing for sure, because he loves me. I had a phone call today. Someone told me these things were happening in their life. I don't know why it's happening. Rabbi Nachman says you do know why it's happening. One reason, because Hashem loves you. But this is killing me. I'm hurting from this. Because you don't experience yet that Hashem Echad, because Mashiach's not here yet. Because this is the tachlit, this is the goal. This is the ultimate stage of revelation. Right now, we're in a stage of galut. We're in a place of exile, so we don't see that. But if, for instance, and I give this example all the time, I told you right now that by tripping on the floor, you're going to find your soulmate. So not only would the tripping not bother you, you would willingly get up and you would do it yourself. And you would smile the whole way down and the whole way up. You would be the greatest moment of your life. Most exciting, most pleasurable tripping you ever did, and not on drugs, just on your feet. Not young. We're not doing questions right now. At the end. You would love tripping like that. But let's say, for instance, you don't know that that's going to bring your soulmate. How did you enjoy tripping? You go up, you like start throwing things down. You go home, you start screaming at your parents and everybody around you. You start thinking about how much your life sucks and how everything is falling apart. And your whole life spirals out. For one reason, because you don't think it's good. That's the only reason why. If you thought it was good, you would do it every day on purpose. You would enjoy it. Hit me again. It's great. I love it. Yeah? But we don't see that the events in our life are for the good because we're in exile. What does it mean we're in exile? It means that our da'at is not here. We don't consciously experience the oneness of the things that are taking place in our life. Okay. Like it says in Pesachim, Masechet Pesachim Nun, al pasuk say, on that pasuk, that on that day Hashem is one and his name will be one. So the rabbis say, I don't understand. On that day Hashem's going to be one? He's not one now? On that day? What about now? He's what? He's many? I thought that was the whole chiddush of Judaism. That he's not. He's only one. So why is he saying Bayomahu? Atua idna, because presently, lav echarhu, ela idna, mevarchin al hara'ah, because when bad things happen to you, you say Baruch Dayana Emet. And when good things happen to you, you make the bracha Tovu Meitiv, the one who's good and who does good. But in Olam Haba, when Mashiach comes, there's not two brachot. No matter what happens to you, whether it's good or seemingly bad, you only say Tovu Meitiv. Meaning that yes, Hashem is one right now. And yes, everything is Tovu Meitiv right now, but you don't experience that right now. And because you don't experience that, Hashem doesn't demand of you to say Tovu Meitiv when you feel something horrible is happening to you. Because he empathizes with you in your pain. He feels that pain with you. He doesn't want you to pretend you don't feel it. However, in the future, when your perception is opened up, and you see that it's really for the good, it's not that you're going to have to force it and say Tovu Meitiv. You're going to want to say Tovu Meitiv. You're going to want to say the one who's good and who does good because you actually experience that. You actually feel that. Ella, like this. Va'ala tova. Avala tid avarchu ala tova mativ. But in the future, all you're going to say is the one who's good and who does good. For what? For everything. And this is the tachlit. This is the purpose of existence. Hu kulotov. And that purpose, that final destination is only good. Ki tachlit hu kulotov. Because there is no such thing as a tachlit, as a final destination that's not completely good. Hashem did not create us in this world that we should struggle, that we should suffer, that we should go through trials and tribulations so that at the end we could say, it's okay. Nevach me. Hashem only created us to go through this time period in our life for a temporary time so that at the end we could see that it's kulotov. Because Hashem is only good. So if Hashem is only good, there is no way he can give over to you bad. Can you imagine, for instance, someone like you? You don't know how to speak Italian. Could you give Italian to somebody? So if Hashem is only good, how is he going to give over bad to you? He doesn't have it. So why are we experiencing bad? Because Hashem's hiding from us. He can't give us bad. He can only hide because he's only good. So we're just waiting for him to reveal himself, to show his face. Like David says all the time, Hashem, how long until you show me your face? I can't take it anymore. And this is the goal. Because even all of the troubles, all of the suffering, all of the bad that occurs to a person, chas v'shalom, in his life, im yistakel ala tachlit, if he would not pay attention to what's happening, and instead he would focus on and gaze intently on the purpose and final destination of his life, bavadai eino ra'ot klal. For sure, there is no bad at all. So this is hard to understand. I get if he says, if I'm focusing on it, I'm going to feel better. But he's not saying that. He's saying, if I focus on the future, on that final destination, which will happen, that is only good, that there is no bad, period. How can we understand that? Somebody know? Let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you're struggling to find your partner in life. Okay? Or let's say, for instance, you have one, but you're struggling to find your partner with your partner. You're struggling to have peace at home. Okay? What is that going to force you to do? Search. You're going to have to go search. What if your searching takes you to a place that you never imagined? So obviously, what's going to cause you to search? If everything is hunky-dory, you're not going to be searching for anything because you're content. A person who naturally is content, he doesn't move. You ever see people who watch TV on Netflix and they eat popcorn? Do they want to move? No. Why would you want to move? It's so great. I don't want to do anything. So what is it that causes a person to want to get up when the movie ends? When the popcorn's finished. Mom, the meatloaf. You got to get more of it, right? You have to go do something. Now, he would say, this is bad. I'm inconvenienced right now. But what if on the way to getting the popcorn, he actually found something that could make him actually happy, something that he doesn't need to watch TV for or pay for, or to take away time from his life from, he can actually live more. Now, if he looks back, would he say that it was bad that he lost his popcorn, that he didn't have any left? Would he say it was bad even when he lost the movie? It was done. There is no more movie. And now he had to find another way to be happy that wasn't dependent on, I have my Netflix account open. He would say, no, there was no bad, but that's only later. Like, let's say, for instance, to me, I'm just hitting me right now. I struggled very, very much trying to find somebody to be with. Even when I was a kid growing up, and I didn't grow up religious. So it's not the same type of like, I have to get married. Hashem wants me to get married. It's a mitzvah to get married. It was just, I want to be with someone so I don't feel lonely. And for a person like myself, that I suffer tremendously with loneliness, with depression, with sadness, with anxiety, I wanted it probably more than anybody else. And I used to run after it all the time, and fall up short every time, get hurt. Now, there's no way, Rabbi Nachman's saying, if I just focus on the future, when it's going to be all good, so there is no bad. This is not bad. What do you mean this is not bad? I'm suffering. What did all that cause me to do? To take a birthright trip to Israel. To do something crazy. To go travel to another country, even though it didn't make sense with my life at the time. I was starting graduate school. I was doing this. I was doing that. It didn't make sense for me to go do that. But what was propelling me to do something different? The pain. Feeling like I didn't find what I'm looking for in my life yet, that there's something missing in my life. So I take that free trip to Israel. Thank God, not only do I find my wife, I found Hashem. Now, can you imagine that if Hashem let me find the girl for the 20 years before that, one time, what wouldn't I have done? I wouldn't have even achieved the purpose of my life. I would have never even known God exists. As a Jewish person, at the end of time, I would not even know that there's such a thing called Hashem. So now, looking back, I could say there was no bad. Because all those things caused me to have a vessel to receive ultimately what would be, Baruch Hashem, my wife. And not just my wife, but Hashem. Not just Hashem. Spirituality, not just spirituality. Happiness without drugs and without drinking. Everything that I ever looked for in my life came from the fact that all of those girls rejected me. And if they wouldn't have, then I never would have gotten good. So it's kulo tov. Eino rat cloud. There was no bad ever. Rak tovot gedolot. Only amazing good. Ki bavadai kol yisurim ba'im b'chavana me'Hashem miparach letovato. Because for sure, all of the yisurim, all of the suffering, all of the trials that come to a person are with kavanah, are with explicit intention, planning from Hashem for your good. Im lahaskiro la'ashuv b'teshuva, that you should return to him in teshuva, that you should come back to him. Im l'marek avanotav, or in order to be able to expel from him the negative effects of the actions which he engaged in his life, which is also for his good. And if thus all of these Yisurin are actually the greatest good, because everything he's doing is only for your benefit, nimsa, consequently, all of the ra'ot, all of the trials and tribulations that there are to a person, chas v'shalom, if he focuses on the fact that this will all culminate in the ultimate good, meaning, which is the kavanah of Hashem, what is the intention of Hashem, that ultimate good that's coming. So if I focus on the ultimate good that's coming from this difficulty, lo yeh lo yisurim klal, then there is no yisurim anymore. There's no calamity anymore. There's no befalling anymore. Rak adraba, only the opposite. Yitmaleh simcha, you're filled with simcha. Migodel rov hatova shistaker b'tachlit hayisurin halelu. From the great good that you're gazing on the tachlit, that these yisurin are going to bring about, ki tachlit hu kulotov, because the tachlit is only ever completely good. Kulo echad, completely one. Uve emet, and in truth, en shum ra ba'olam, there is no bad in the world. Ra kulotov, everything is only good. Ach ikar ta'ar, however, the pain that a person feels, me'asurin shovrim alav, that come to a person, rak mechamat shlokin me'adam adat, they're only from that person's da'at being taken from them. From forgetting at that moment that this is from Hashem because he loves you in order to bring you to ultimate good. Until he's not able to gaze on the tachlit right now because his thought process to even think that this is good for me is taken from him. He only feels and experiences that moment. The hangriness, the wine going everywhere, the not having that one thing you're looking forward to all week. So if you think that all of that's happening, so yeah, for sure, this is bad. But if you can have your da'at, and you could take a moment and say to yourself, this is kulotov, because this is bringing me to achad. And then this isn't bad at all. Because if I could be just as happy when things are going completely not like I'd hoped for, as they are as when they go the way that I want them to, that means that I see that everything is from Hashem and everything is good. That is a much higher level of joy than only when things go the way I exactly want them to. Because when a person focuses and possesses awareness on the ultimate purpose, he says he doesn't feel the pain of the suffering at all. What do you mean I don't feel the pain of the suffering at all? What if you have a physical illness? What if you have this? What if you have that? Rabbi Nachman had tuberculosis. He had the worst pain. They had no cure. Most people died very early from this. He lived 3 more years longer than most people did at that time. And he said he did it literally, it was a nes from Hashem, and he did it for his students. It was towards the end, he literally would throw up buckets of blood. Buckets, basins of blood. Can you imagine? Not like a movie where they press like a button and squeeze blood and it comes out. He literally is in the middle of living, and now for the next few hours, he is incapacitated, nonstop throwing up buckets of blood. He literally, his students are by him. They're crying hysterically. They're screaming. They run out of the room. They can't see the rabbi like that. They come back in the next morning, and he said, "Why did you guys leave?" I said, "What do you mean? You're dying." And he said, "Yeah, but if you would have just waited another second, I would have gave you the most sweetest lesson from Gan Eden." What are you talking about? What do you mean? Rabbi Nachman's whole entire being was always bound up with the tachlit of his life. Rabbi Nachman says, what should you think about when you get up in the morning? He says, Olam Haba. What should you think about before you go to sleep at night? Olam Haba. What should you constantly keep in your mind? Olam Haba. Why? So you can escape your life? No. Because you have no context in your life without Olam Haba. Because if you don't think about the fact that ultimately all of this is going to lead to the greatest good, then all you have is just this, and this sucks. I'm serious. Do you understand what we're saying? Imagine you had a puzzle. You had pieces. You know the picture on the front of every box? Okay. So if you see that picture and you have these pieces everywhere, so yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. But it's fun. And it's exciting. And you might even prefer to do that than anything else. Why? Because you see that there's a picture. You see the tachlit. But what happens if, for instance, I took the box away? You never saw the box. You just saw pieces in your house. You have a nervous breakdown. What am I going to do with this? Get the cleaning lady. But then I see the pieces again the next day. What am I going to do with this? I don't know. So what do you really need? The picture. What it looks like at the end. What does it look like at the end? Shema Yisrael, Shema Elokeinu, Shem Echad. One. Good. Only. So Rabbi Nachman says, how often do you have to think about that that's what is going to ultimately from this situation that's taking place right now? Always. One of the main reasons Rabbi Nachman says you should do it every day? Because it's the nature of a person to forget Olam Haba. Because he's going to get sucked back into work, sucked back into society, sucked back into family problems, sucked back into this. And if he doesn't have a time every day that he reminds himself, Olam Haba, Echad, Mashiach, Geula, this is not getting in the way of that. This is causing that. He's going to go into Yeyush. But if he knows that the whole purpose of all of this is to bring that, then not only is he not overwhelmed by the situation, or he's not angry, or he's not scared, he's happy. He has simcha gedola. Now listen to what he says. This is a very deep thing. Through this, you can understand an inexplicable thing. Why is it the nature of a person that when he or she goes through tremendous pain, Rahman al-Itzlan, whether it's emotional, whether it's psychological, whether it's physical, whatever it is, for example, like when a person's limb is being amputated, chas v'shalom. He closes and shuts his eyes tightly. Did you ever think about why we do that? You ever notice that when you're in pain, you close your eyes? And when you're in a lot of pain, you close tighter? And when you're in the worst pain of your life, you squeeze and you crush your eyelids together? Why do you do that? Why did Hashem make us like that? So listen to what Rabbi Nachman says. Because we see literally in life, with evidence, that when a person desires to see a matter which is far from him, he needs to close his eyes. He needs to narrow his vision. In order to be able to see that thing which is far from him. Meaning, let's say for instance, someone says, hey, do you see that in the sky? Where is it? It's all the way over there. So how am I going to see it? If I just look up, I can't see it. What am I going to do? Close my eyes. Why do you do that in order to be able to see? Should be the opposite now. Shouldn't I have to go like this? Open them more? Why is it that in order to see far distances, I have to close my eyes? You hear the question? Because your sight is the messenger of your mind. This is a very deep thing. He's saying like this. So to speak, your eyeballs work for your mind, your brain. Which we know that's all connected, but he's saying more than that. When your mind wants to think about something, it has your eyes look at it. to bring it into its focus so that now he can contemplate it. Make sense? Let's say, for instance, you have a good memory from the past. You went to Uman for Hanukkah. You loved it. It was geschmack. You were dancing. You were happy. It was like there was no COVID. It was like I had no suffering, no trials, no tribulation. Kul tov echad. What do? I go back and I watch a video. Why I go back and watch a video? Because I need to use my eyes to bring me to the place that my mind wants to be in. The eyes are the emissaries, the messengers for the mind, Rabbi Nachman says. Because the essence of looking, hiya idea, it's da'at, it's knowing. The essence of seeing something is to know it. Dainu, meaning, le'da mehut hadavar shoreh, to know the nature of the object that's being observed. Knowledge is in the mind. Thus, when the mind wishes to know an object in its sight, it sends forth its vision. Sounds like it's superpowers, right? I want to know something in my mind. Whoop, and then my eyes I send my eyes out to do my bidding, like a messenger. Like, let's say I have a person who works for me. I need you to do something for me, a shliach. Your eyes are the shliach of your mind. The person then knows what he's looking at. This is why when an object is quickly passed in front of a person, he doesn't know its nature, even though he just saw it. He just saw it. It ran right past him. How come he doesn't know that thing? Also, when an object is far away, one's vision lacks the strength to reach there and bring it into his mind because he gets distracted by the peripheral objects. In addition, his vision gets diffused the further he has to look. He therefore has to squint, contracting and focusing his vision on the desired object so that other things don't distract him. Then he's going to be able to see an object that's far away. Now listen to the chiddush that he has. Therefore, you need to close your eyes to contract your vision so that you can intend on the ultimate goal. That is the tachlit, the purpose of your life. Shehu kula tov, which is only completely good. Kulo echad, which is only one. Tzarich listom et anav. You need to close your eyes. Why? Because that's the only way you can see something which is far away. Now, if you think about it, how do you fulfill the mitzvah of Shema? Do we do it with our eyes open or we close them? Why do we have to close our eyes when we say Shema? Yeah, and also, what are we learning now? Because it's a reality, it's a state of existence which is going to happen, but it's not yet. And therefore, we can't keep our eyes open and say it and mean it because you don't see that. So how do you see something far away? You have to squint. What if it's so far away or feels so far away? It feels so far removed from your personal life. You have to close your eyes completely. The Zohar says that there's this beautiful woman, the most beautiful woman in the world. She has no eyes. I don't know about you guys, but when you were checking out the prospects to get married to, and they said, what are you looking for? You didn't ask for the beautiful maiden with no eyes because she's not beautiful to you. However, the Torah says she's the most beautiful woman in the world. Why is she so beautiful? Because she only sees the purpose of life. Because she's constantly in a state of Shema. That when things are taking place in her life, whether for her good or not for her good, she doesn't see what's happening right now. She's only thinking about the purpose. She only sees the picture on the front of the puzzle box. And when you do that, then you're beautiful and your life is beautiful. But if you see what's happening only in front of you, which you know is just a piece in the puzzle, but you look at it like the whole world. And because we look at it like the whole world, it causes us tremendous suffering. Do you know why? Because it's not the whole puzzle. You know when you say Masechet Megillah, when you say Megillat Esther, Purim is coming up. The mitzvah is not fulfilled if you take a break in the middle. Why not? You know, if you have to take a break in the middle of Megillah, you have to go all the way back to the beginning and start over again. You're not yotz the mitzvah. Why not? Sounds a little fanatical, no? Can you imagine you're getting towards the end, you literally spent a whole hour doing this, and all of a sudden, yo, Johnny! And then you turn around. Ah, God. Then we got to go start in the beginning again. Why? Because if you're going to stop for one moment in the middle of Megillah, you know what you're going to do? You're going to think about it. You're going to think about what's taking place right now. And if you stop at any point of the Megillah before you get to the end, you know what you think is happening right now? Gehenna. The Megillah is the saddest, scariest, most topsy-turvy story of the Jewish people that just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And Chazal say, you're not allowed to stop and think about it. You have to get through the whole story. Now, start thinking. Once the story's over, you could start thinking about it. Why? Because otherwise you're going to go into Yeyush. But now when you go through the whole Megillah, then you see that even Achashverosh taking Esther was not even bad, it was good. That the Jewish people all being forced to pray to Hashem and ask for a change because things had gotten so bad in their spiritual level and therefore they were disconnected from Hashem. That was also good. Every step was good, but not when it happened. Not at least in your eyes. So Rabbi Nachman says, don't stop moving. Just keep going. Close your eyes and look towards that future, which is kulo tov, which is only good. And this, Rabbi Nachman says, is called bitul. But to be able to do this, he says, livli istakel klal al tavot ha'olam hazeh v'havalav. To be able to not gaze at the temptations, the desires of this world, the vanities at all, is very hard. And he's not just talking about cars and money. He's also talking about just fantasies that we have. Fantasies. Saying things that we want, which are not real. That we're hoping for, that we're praying for, that we feel like if we just got this thing, it would be good. But we don't have that right now. So what, Hashem wants you to be miserable? He wants you to be sad. He wants you to be angry. He wants you to be confused. Chas v'shalom. We just said that Hashem is only good. And he only wants to give you good. So then why is he doing this to me? The answer is that there are two states you can focus on. There's the state of reality called the truth. And that you will only experience in the future when Mashiach comes. How do I get to taste that right now? Only if I can close my eyes. Because that's the only way to see something far away. Or I can focus on what's happening right now, like that one puzzle piece amongst the whole puzzle with no picture. And no matter what piece you get to, it's going to feel like a mess. It's going to feel like a complete confusion, tumult. But it's not. It's just pieces of a very big puzzle. So focus on the end. What's the end going to be? So Chazal tell us, complete simcha, the greatest happiness, even ecstasy, without drugs. Love, like you never felt in your life. Connection, unity with all of the Jewish people and even all the world. So what did Rabbi Nachman think about when he was in the shtetl in Ukraine? And this guy is saying that he's a heretic. This person says he's going to Gehenna. And all he's trying to do is help take Jewish people out of their suffering. He just focused on that time. And therefore, he said, he didn't feel the suffering at all. Because when you can focus just on the tachlit, then really there is no suffering. But if you loses your mind for a second, or you're not focused on it, then you feel all the suffering in the world. So what does bitul mean? Bitul means to become completely nullified in the tachlit. It's not just that I'm saying to myself, I am not going to pay attention to what's taking place in my life. That's not bitul. That doesn't work either, by the way. Bitul means, what am I nullifying myself to? The ultimate purpose of my life, which is only completely good. And if you can do this, this is the bitul which is going to transform your whole life. This is the bitul that Rabbi Nachman says is only possible through hibodedut. This is the bitul that allows a person, no matter what he's going through, to still remain besimcha, to be happy. And by the way, I'm just going to give you something to think about. There's a story, Rabbi Nachman used to write stories. He said, oh, so you're not listening to the Torah I'm teaching? No problem. I'm going to start telling stories. And he made amazing stories from ancient days. One of these stories is so amazing, it's even renowned in the secular world. It's called The Seven Beggars. It's studied even in classes of literature. And in this story, The Seven Beggars, there's a king who wants to give his son his kingdom while he's still alive. So he has a whole ceremony and he gives over the kingship in front of everybody. And it's the greatest joy in his life. And he tells him that if you run the kingship the way that you need to, I'm going to be really happy because you're going to be happy. But even if you don't, and then you will lose the kingship, if you can still remain happy, then I won't just be happy, I will be very happy. And it's explained, what is this speaking about? It's talking about how at Har Sinai, or before creation, Hashem gave the world over to the Jewish people while he still exists. That he gave it to us to be able to perfect and to remedy and to rectify, even though he's God. He's still here, and yet he's giving it to his son. And he says, if you do the things that I ask you to do, then I'm going to be happy. But then Rabbi Nachman says, interestingly, but if you don't, and you lose the kingship, meaning we're in Galut, we're in exile, the opposite of everything we want is happening, and you remain happy with your circumstances, then the king says, I will be very happy. It almost sounds like from this that exile is destined. And that the greatest simcha in Hashem's life, the greatest joy in Hashem's life, is not that you're king, is that you're made into a beggar and you're as happy as you were when you were a king, because you know it's coming back. What is that called? Emunah. 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 So if we're going to ask ourselves, how do we achieve bitul if we can't see that everything is for the good and we don't have that picture in front of us? We know what Chazal say about the future. We know the peace and the life and the tranquility and the sustenance and the not worrying and all of these things that they say is going to happen. So how can I experience joy right now? Bitul. But what's the self-nullification in? It's not just that I'm nullifying my feelings and I'm going into a closet. It's that I'm nullifying myself to the ultimate purpose of my life, which will happen. And that will be completely good. And if I am in that space in my mind, which I can only do by closing my eyes, then I will realize that right now is the path to that place. It's not getting in the way. This is bringing me there. My financial troubles are bringing me to complete financial peace. My health problems are bringing me to the best health. My infertility is bringing me to the greatest fertility. My depression is bringing me to the greatest joy. But what are you talking about? That's not what's happening. I'm just suffering. The answer is, it appears that way right now. Because you're not focused on the purpose of your life. Rabbi Nachman says the entire Geula, both personally and collectively, comes from remembering. And the entire exile of a person, both personally and collectively, comes from forgetting. So why does Rabbi Nachman say it's very good to take an hour every day to talk to Hashem? He says because you can only achieve bitul by doing hipodazut. So okay, great. So I'm doing bitul, but now I'm going back to my life. And that's hard. So the answer is you're not just doing bitul. You're nullifying yourself to the purpose of your life, which is only good. And then when you go back to your life, that's also good. Because you see that this is not getting in the way. This is actually bringing you to that place you just thought about in your hipodazut. Anybody have any questions from tonight's lesson? Yeah.
Also, night represents Shavuot.
Very good. The night represents exile. This is true. Very good. And the night is the time of Emunah. By the way, just a chiddush. I was excited last night. I want to tell you guys. I'm doing Masechet Chagiga right now. It's very interesting. Especially you guys. You would like it. A lot of agadata. Okay? So there's a point where it speaks about the fact that there are 7 levels of Shaman. 7 heavens. I unfortunately had the merit to watch a terrible show called Seventh Heaven growing up. 1 hour before Monday Night Raw every Monday night. And actually, it was so bad that I used to invite my friend over, and we would pretend that we were making fun of the show the entire time. So it, in a weird way, brought us tremendous simcha before Monday Night Raw. It was like an hour vipo to do it. We just make fun of the entire thing the whole time, like pretending we were the characters and how twisted the whole thing was. Then we go into the Monday Night Raw and enjoy it. Seventh Heaven, okay? That was a very, very bizarre, very lacking show. However, there really are 7. Now, the lowest one, which was very interesting, what was the name? It was called Vilon. Okay? And the Gemara says something interesting about it. It says it serves no actual purpose, the Gemara says. It doesn't have any function except that at nighttime it comes and it covers the world in darkness, and during the daytime it goes away. And that's why it turns light. And because of the merit of the Vilon, there is a renewal every day. But there is no actual purpose of it. So I started thinking to myself, this kind of sounds like Malchut. This kind of sounds like Emunah. That Rabbi Nachman says that Malchut or Emunah or the moon has no light of its own, right? The moon doesn't actually do something. Its whole function is that it has nothing. And because it has nothing, it could actually reflect the light of the sun and give a benefit. And then the fact that it causes a renewal, meaning what does Rabbi Nachman says is going to cause the renewal of the world? When you have Emunah Shlema. When you have complete Emunah in Hashem, you will see a renewal, a complete change in your life, a complete renewal of your life personally and also collectively. So I had a weird feeling, which I do sometimes. I'm like, let me check the gematria of Vilon. It was 102. It's like, I knew it. You guys know the gematria of Emunah? 102. Same gematria. Unbelievable. Thank God. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Thank you for listening to the class. I just want to give you guys the schedule for the rest of the week. Okay? And by the way, we have a few days left for Tevet, so practice this. Meaning, I go through something in my life. Don't just be satisfied with what it looks like. Go take a time later that day or at that moment, if you're able to, and close your eyes. And say to yourself, I don't know how, but this is going to cause that I should achieve all the things that I could ever want in my life. This thing right here, that's killing me. This thing that hurt me. This thing that pained me. This is going to lead to that. And if this doesn't happen, I'm not getting there. And let yourself feel a little bit of a change. Let yourself feel that difference, that little inner stirring that happens when you actually allow yourself to experience that this is going to lead to that. You will actually start to feel joy. Even now, before you get there. This is something which Breslovers are working every day to perfect this skill. That's why if you go to Uman, you'll see a lot of them. They have huge smiles on their faces all the time. And the question is, how do they do that? Because they're not here. They're on the Tachlit, always. Rabbi Nachman says also, by the way, do you know why on your tzitzit you have Techelet? He says it comes from the word Tachlit. The blue is supposed to remind you of Olam Haba, the purpose of your life, the place that's completely good. But you'll notice what's the one thing we don't have in our tzitzit now? Techelet. The Tachlit is in exile. The purpose of your life is personally in exile. You don't think about it. And it's collectively in exile. We don't believe in it. But if you were to, so to speak, make Techelet, both physically, but more importantly in your mind, then you would see that it's good even now. Okay? Tomorrow we're going to have Likutei Halachot at 10:30 a.m. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Bezrat Hashem, which is an amazing class. It's even more practical than this class. It takes the same wisdom, but makes it more practical, okay? Tuesday night we'll have Bezrat Hashem, we'll continue Likutei Moharan Torah 5, which is very, very important Torah. And we're at a very, very critical part of the Torah. So you for sure should be there if you're a guy to come to the class here at 9 p.m. Or you can watch online if you're not here or if you're a woman. Thursday, I'm not sure yet what we're going to do. But next week, I'm going to Miami, Bezrat Hashem, to do the class with Gedali Fenster. So I was thinking about what we should speak about, what the class should be on. You know, obviously it's an unusual opportunity. It's very exciting. especially for my guys who've been like pushing me since they met me. Hey, you ever hear of Gedalia? You want to do something with him? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. You know, I don't know how that would actually happen. But thank God Hashem has put some things in the works and people have tried very hard to make this happen. And thank God it seems like it's really happening. And I just want to make the best use of the time for the students. Okay? So I had an idea that maybe you guys can come up with questions and you can send them in to me. And then we can answer those questions together. Okay, things practically that you deal with, things maybe you always wondered, even though you're learning Rabbi Nachman's Torah, maybe you never got it answered, maybe you didn't see it in a book, or maybe you don't know how to deal with something. Because obviously I can make up something and we can do it, or he can make up something, we can do it. But I just feel right now with the COVID, with everything that's taking place, the Chazal and the sages are saying Mashiach is literally here. And the world is saying that we're in Gehenna, and this is the whole world is coming to an end. So this is a very, very turbulent time. And I want to be able, so to speak to everybody's heart, whatever that is. And hopefully to be able to give from personal experience and whatever it is that we know together. So if you guys could email us at sionbreslovproject@gmail.com, something maybe that you're sitting on, that you've been sitting on, that maybe you never said before, maybe you didn't feel courage enough to say, but you really need an answer, or you're dying for an answer, yeah? Or you're just curious about something. Email us, sionbreslovproject@gmail.com, okay? And try to do it soon, so that way I could send it over to him, and that way he has time to also think about the questions himself and see if he wants to give a class in those things as well, okay? Everybody have an amazing, amazing week. Shua Tov, and happy Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Rosh Chodesh Shvat is coming up this week. Shvat is the month of the tzaddik, you should know. The whole concept of Shvat is the concept of the tzaddik, okay? And so that means you have an ability to have greater hikashru, connection to the tzaddik this month than you do the rest of the year. And also, what is the thing that you can work on this month more than other months? Eating. Okay, so I know that this is a big one for me. This is a hard one for me, and this is a hard one for a lot of people. But you have a koach to work on it even more this month. Okay? Everybody have an amazing, amazing week. And Bezrat Hashem, I'll see you guys tomorrow in the class.